then I'm damn well gonna try. Thank you. I'm sorry, I have to take a picture of this. Fucking hell. Thank you so much. I'm just going to do one more. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. I'm so grateful to all of you. I love you. Solidarity. Can we do this tomorrow or what? Yeah. I'd love you to sing this one with me if that's all right, London. This is an anti-fascist song. It's a good time to be singing them, am I right? A few years ago, I was asked to write a song about the Spanish Civil War, and I didn't know anything about it, and I went away and I read about it, and I found out these incredible stories about people who went over voluntarily to fight fascism in Spain, even though they weren't threatened by it themselves, and it taught me so much about solidarity and compassion, and about the kind of person I want to be, the kind of world I want to be able to be a part of helping to build. And this is what I came up with. And then this song, you know, it's about anti-fascism, but it's about what we're all trying to do, right? I genuinely believe what we're trying to do is we're trying to build a better world for our children than the world we inherited. As long as we're doing that, I really know that we're going to be okay in the end. Thank you so much. This has got a sing-along chorus where I'm going to go like this. Stand up today, and then you're going to go, save tomorrow. Are you with me? Hey, that was about 48%, wasn't it? What we need to do is we need to sing a resounding anti-fascist chorus, because that is the way to incite a revolution. Are you with me, London? You see, what I did was I gave you more information and then I asked you again. I think it's a good policy, don't you? Thanks very much. You're not my brother nor my countryman, not my sister or my friend, but you're my comrade, be so till the last. They shall not pass, they shall not pass. Now blood is running through the streets of Spain, and London grips in fear. Oh, smell of gunfire, sound of breaking glass. You shall not pass, you shall not pass. And why fight the good fight, fight the good fight? Why not let them burn? I dread the day when the suffering of my fellow is none of my concern. So stand up today that we might save tomorrow. Oh, I know there's a way that we might save tomorrow. Yes, it's late in the day, but we might save tomorrow if we try. I will not turn against my brother for his creed or for his colour, nor the one he takes his lover, nor his class. You that beckon me that way, you shall not pass. And you who speak of ideology, who speak of people like they're pawns, whose motives lie neath frosted glass, you shall not pass, you shall not pass. In the name now of humanity, no left nor right, no black nor white, tear that fascist flag now from its mast. It shall not pass, it shall not pass. And why fight the good fight, fight the good fight? Why not let them burn? I dread the day when the suffering of my fellow is none of my concern. So stand up today that we might save tomorrow. Oh, I know there's a way that we might save tomorrow. Yes, it's late in the day, but we might save tomorrow if we try. I will not turn against my brother for his creed or for his colour, nor the one he takes his lover or his class. You that beckon me that way, you shall not pass. Stand up and speak, it's not a call to arms. Get on your feet, it's not a call the streets, it's not a call to arms, it's a call to helping hand. Last time, London, as loud as you can. Stand up today that we might save tomorrow. Oh, I know there's a way that we might save tomorrow. Yes, it's late in the day, but we might save tomorrow. You and I, we shall not turn against each other for our creed or for our colour, nor the ones we choose, our lovers or our class. And those that beckon us that way, they shall not pass. Thank you very much, you guys. Love and solidarity. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Let's big it up for Grace Petrie. Thank you, Grace. And it now gives me great pleasure to welcome to Hackney South and Shoreditch the chair of a pretty important constituency close to here. Any guesses? The chair of Islington North Labour Party, Alison McGarry.
Thank you to Islington. Wow. I'm so pleased and so privileged to be here and to be the chair of Islington North Labour Party. I am surrounded here by many of my sisters and brothers who have been out, it feels, for months, it's only 6 weeks, knocking on doors. We've had great contact in Islington, but just as important, all of our members have been going out to the marginals. It's been a fantastic contribution. So I want to thank Islington members, Islington North, but I also want to thank Islington South. Emily is waving to me. I want to thank all the hundreds and thousands, literally, up and down the country, who've been out, walking the streets, knocking on doors, stuffing the envelopes, taking the posters out. You have done it. And every little contribution really helps. And apart from thanking our activists, our members, our supporters, I also want to thank our families, our carers, who actually enable us very often to be the very good activists that we are able to be. So thank you to families, friends, carers, and the rest. Thank you. I have been in the Labour Party for a very long time and working elections since 1970. Long time. But this is the best election I have ever had the fortune to be part of. Ever. Not only do we have a great economic, social, green, costed manifesto, the best since 1945, we also have a leader who, for me, is the best since Keir Hardie, is what I would say. And we know, despite the really vicious media campaign, that we are going to win tomorrow. Tomorrow. So tomorrow we win, we take power, we have a couple of hours rest, then we start to implement the policies and, really importantly, build and continue to build our social movement that will enable a Labour government to implement its policies. This is... And I'm going to finish here. This is just a stage in the campaign. Tomorrow we win, and then we carry on with the rest of the campaign to change this absolutely rotten system and rotten society for the better. Thank you, comrades. Thank you. Tomorrow will be a great day, and it's now my privilege to introduce two people who have been at the forefront of the campaign, working in the NHS, Yanis and Sonia, two doctors who will be sharing with us their experience, and again, just reaffirming why we so need to win tomorrow and carry on winning. Thank you very much, comrades.
Thank you.
You're going to vote for this. Oh, you're going to have that one.
Hi, everyone. My name's Yanis. This is Sonia. You'll hear from Sonia in a moment. I'm an NHS doctor, a full-time NHS doctor, and I work just around the corner at the Royal London Hospital. I and many of my NHS colleagues have been fighting for Jeremy Corbyn from the very day that he stood to be leader in 2017. And Jeremy stood with us when the Conservatives attacked our working conditions. He fights for us and for every patient up and down the country, because Jeremy and the Labour Party are the last line of defence against a hard-right Tory government intent on destroying the NHS. And we healthcare workers know it. The years of austerity have been years of despair for many of my colleagues. There is an ever-increasing burden of silent suffering amongst my colleagues, of suicidality, of depression, of fatigue, under the daily grind of an overstretched NHS. And beyond the clinical aspects of my job, I've also seen the horrors of this government's so-called welfare reforms, the callous pathway of universal credit and PIP, a system designed to shame, to exclude, and to punish the poor and the sick. I've seen the catastrophic effects of the government's hostile environment policies on my vulnerable patients. I've visited mental health units, understaffed and underfunded, that are deeply unkind and even terrifying places. I've worked in hospitals across a fragmented and ever more commercialised NHS, where there is a widening gulf between those hospitals that are able to provide good care and those hospitals that are mired in debt and struggling to serve even the basic needs of their population. The Tories are corrupting the NHS. But I see hope. I see hope in the fact that thousands of my fellow doctors, nurses, and NHS workers have been devoting every moment of their free time in campaigning for a Labour Party victory tomorrow. I see hope. I see hope in the Labour manifesto, a Labour government enacting radical policies, undoing a decade of Tory damage and reforging the NHS so that it truly is fit for the future. So on the doorstep and at the ballot box, we 1.5 million NHS workers will make our voices heard. Jeremy Corbyn will be the next Prime Minister. We've got 24 hours to make sure that happens. The future of the NHS depends on it. Thank you.
So my name is Sonia Adesawa, and I am proud and privileged to work in our NHS. But this morning I cried. And I cried as I watched my friend Geeta talk about the death of her son. So her son, Zum, was a beautiful, talented young man who died from suicide. And I'm just going to read to you her words. My son was failed by the callousness of this government. Failed because he didn't have a safe space to stay. He was failed because there was no rehab. He was told he wasn't ill enough. We cannot have this carrying on. And I cried because Geeta's pain is a pain that I see in too many parents' eyes. I meet too many parents who are struggling, desperate to get the care that their children need. Too many parents who are told that their children are not sick enough yet to get the specialist care that they need. And I am angry. Okay, I am angry that we have children waiting 6 months to get specialist psychiatric care. I am angry that we have more children in this country being admitted to hospitals with pneumonia and breathing problems because they are living in poverty and their housing is making them sick. I'm angry when I start my shift and I walk down the corridor, I see elderly patients lining the corridors, lying on trolleys. And I'm angry that 5,000 people have died lying on hospital trolleys. And I'm angry because it's a result of this government's callous, cruel policies that 120,000 people have died. Now, these people are our families, our communities, and this government is hurting our communities. We deserve better. So we have 24 hours. 24 hours to save our NHS, to save our public services, and to end the sickness of inequality that is suffocating our communities. And finally, whatever happens on Friday morning, remember this. This is just the start. Because, change doesn't happen overnight. And change will not be given to us. People make change happen. We will make change happen. So get out there, get out the vote, let's bring a Labour government. And let us bring hope and justice and kindness back into our communities and our country. And now, without further ado, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm about to bring onto the stage my absolute hero. Please give a massive round of applause for our next Home Secretary, the formidable Diane Abbott.
Ladies and gentlemen, comrades, welcome to the People's Republic of Hackney. It's been a long road to stand here on the brink of power, but in 24 hours, we will be able to show to the British people that a better way is possible. And where better to have an eve of poll rally for my colleague, friend of over 30 years standing, and the next Prime Minister of this country, Jeremy Corbyn. And this is literally the most important election of our lifetime, because the gap between Tory values and the society they want to see, and our values and the society we want to build could not be wider. So, what would we get with a Prime Minister Boris Johnson? Well, we would get Donald Trump thrown in. Two sexist, racist egotists for the price of one. And with Boris Johnson, we'll also get someone who, as we all know, was a terrible mayor of London. We will also get fewer rights at work, fewer proper trade union rights. We'll say goodbye to decent consumer standards, including food standards. And above all, we would say goodbye to a properly public and a properly funded NHS. Because let's be clear, Trump wants full market access to the NHS for US drug companies and the US private health companies. And what Trump wants, he will get. Can you imagine Boris, who hides in fridges, who runs scared of half the journalists on TV, standing up to Trump? And I don't have to tell you, Jo Swinson is no alternative to Boris. Just as she was when she served in the coalition government under Cameron, Swinson is the Tory enabler. Only Labour, led by Jeremy Corbyn, is the alternative to Boris Johnson. And our platform is really clear. We will tackle the climate crisis. We will end the Brexit chaos. We will end the economic crisis. We will repair the huge damage to our public services, including the NHS. And we will invest for the future. And under a Jeremy Corbyn government, our NHS is not for sale. Are based on Labour values, they are my values, they are Jeremy Corbyn's values, and they are your values too. And our values are internationalist also. We are proud of our part in the Good Friday Agreement. Unlike this government, we're not willing to tear the Good Friday Agreement for a cheap deal with the DUP. We stand for peace in the Middle East, not invasion or annexation. We don't believe any country or group of countries is anyone else's backyard. It is not the job of the Prime Minister of this country when someone, in other words Trump, says jump, to say how high, or at least it shouldn't be. And we must not become the US's airstrip one. Like all of you, I was very moved to hear from the NHS workers we heard from just now. And I was particularly moved to hear of the young man who committed suicide. I believe that Jeremy Corbyn has been a transformative leader of the Labour Party. I believe that under Jeremy's leadership, we will make good the wrongs to the Windrush generation. We will stand up for fair and principled policies on migration. Yes. We will invest in our public services and we will give our young people hope. And so I said right at the beginning of my remarks, we stand here on the brink of power. And I have every confidence that on that Friday, we will see Jeremy Corbyn walking up Downing Street. For real change. Thank you.
Follow that. I want to start by saying how pleased I am, how overjoyed I am to be here in Hackney with my great friends from the front bench, for Meg, for the future Home Secretary, for my good friend Dawn. It's wonderful to be with you all. Thank you so much for having us. Thank you for everything that you have done. Thank you for everything that you will do. Because I tell you, it's been tough, hasn't it? You guys have been out with us in the rain, in the cold, in the wind, in the dark, because we have known that the only way that we can get our message out is by knocking on doors and talking directly to people, because we're not going to get our message out otherwise. We know that we have a great story to tell, and the story is this, and it's a true one. It doesn't have to be this way. There is another way. There is a Labour way. There is hope. It doesn't have to be this way. We do not need to live in a society where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, where head teachers write begging letters in order to be able to pay for pencils. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way that we hear these heartbreaking stories from the National Health Service. We hear these wonderful people who dedicate themselves to public service but who are unable to fulfill their jobs properly because the National Health Service has been bled dry. It does not have to be this way. There is another way. And we have to get out there and we have to tell people that they need to believe. Because I tell you, they may tell us, and I believe they may have told us a couple of years ago, that the polls were against us and the pundits were saying there was absolutely no chance, that Labour was going to get squashed, that we had no future. Well, we showed them, didn't we? We showed them. And we can show them again, because the truth is this. It doesn't matter what the establishment says. At the moment, our country is paused. We hold our breath. We wait to find out what the people say, because the power is in their hands and it is for them to decide what direction our country goes in. And no one knows apart from them. But we know one thing. We will be spending the next, how many hours is it, Dawn? 26? 24, 26? We're going to be using the next time. We're going to be using the next time, making sure that we get out every doubter. We persuade them that they just need to believe that they does not have to be like this. Our country should not be like this. We are at a crossroads, and they just need to come with us. So we need to make sure that we move the doubters out to the polling stations. We need to make sure that we do not leave a single voter behind. And I know that you're going to do that. I know you're going to do that. I have a couple of other things I want to talk about. And the first is this. We have to thank Jeremy Corbyn for the second time in 2 years for an absolutely brilliant and transformational manifesto upon which we can all stand on doorsteps with absolute pride. It speaks from the heart of the Labour Party, straight to the hearts of the British people. And that is the power of our manifesto, and that is the power of ideas, and that, my friends, is the power of politics, real politics. This is not, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. This is not, do you like one person's haircut or another person's pair of shoes? It's what do you stand for? How can you change the country? What ideas have you got? And what is your vision? And we have a leader with great vision. And the reason he has great vision is because he listens. I'm sure that many of us have had the opportunity of sitting down with Jeremy, and we know he doesn't hide behind stupid, empty sound bites. He doesn't hide in refrigerators. He actually gets out and listens to people. And I'm sure you've all had the experience. He takes out of his top pocket his little black notebook, and he starts making notes. And why does he do that? Because he wants to hear what people say, he wants to learn from the people, and then he wants to work out how to fix their problems. That is proper politics. And I tell you what, there is also a strength and a courage in our leader, isn't there? I mean, you know, they say he's a pacifist. I have never seen anyone who fights as well as Jeremy does. I mean, not for him ducking Andrew Neil, for heaven's sake. Not for him ducking climate change debates. He will get out there and he will argue. And yes, they'll try and knock him down. And he gets up and he argues it again. And he makes progress by being strong and leading from the front. And that is what we need. And that's what we need. But I think, in the end, we know that we have a vision, we have an overarching vision, we know what is in our hearts. People know what's in the heart of the Labour Party. They know that we're going the wrong way as a country. They know that we need to redress the balance. They know that we cannot keep bleeding our public services debt. They know that we have a safety net that has enormous holes in it, that entire families fall through and end up living in food banks and desperate for food. They know that there has to be change. And so that is our vision. And frankly, compare that with the vision of a man who cannot even bear to look at a picture of a 4-year-old potentially suffering from TB, lying on coats in accident and emergency, and his poor mother absolutely frightened to death by it. And she takes his photograph, it's on the front page of the Mirror. The Prime Minister won't even look at the photograph. He would rather steal the phone than face it. He won't even face the photograph, let alone show any empathy, let alone show any possibility that he has any idea as to what the solution is. But we know what the solution is. And we know that in the next 24 hours, we need to make sure that we are out there fighting in order to ensure that we get a government and we get MPs, and we get a Prime Minister who has a vision and who can take our country in another direction. That is the only fight which has ever been worth fighting for, and that is the one that we have in the next 24 hours. Thank you. And one of those great MPs who I hope is going to be re-elected tomorrow, and I certainly will be expecting her to, is the wonderful, the inspirational, my very good friend, Dawn Butler.
Whoa! How we doing, Hackney? Whoa! What an amazing speech, Emily. Amazing MP. I mean, it's just so great to be sharing a platform with Meg and Diane and with all of you and all you people outside. Oi! Look, I know Emily said we shouldn't be talking about shoes. Oh, yeah, by the way, hi, Jeanette. Jeanette standing down. Jeanette Arnold, Assembly member. Give her a round of applause. All of her hard work. I know Emily said we shouldn't be talking about shoes, but can you just take a moment to look at my, my canvas shoes? I don't know how I've kept them so clean. I've been to Scotland and Wales and they're still bright red. And let me tell you, these shoes are made for walking. And Boris Johnson, tomorrow these shoes are gonna walk all over you. Trust me, they're gonna walk all over you. We are taking this fight right to the doorstep. You know what? Sometimes people say, why do you have rallies? Why do you preach to the converted? I say, you know what we're doing? We are recharging our batteries. That's what we're doing. We are recharging our batteries, right? We got 24 hours to go out there, get some more votes, get some Labour gains, and win a Labour government. We've got 24 hours to save the NHS and get Jeremy Corbyn into number 10. And we're gonna do it, let me tell you. I want you to do something. It's too late to do phone canvassing at the moment, right? Because it's a bit late now. But when you go home, on your way home, I want you to phone a friend. I want you maybe to phone someone you haven't spoken to for a little while. I want you to call them and say, hello. I want you to say, it's Christmas. I want you to say, I'm gonna give you a valuable present this Christmas. I'm going to give you the most valuable present that keeps on giving. I'm going to give you a Labour government. Give them a call. Give them a call and tell them you're going to give them a Labour government. You're going to give them a Labour government that's going to give doctors and nurses a pay rise. You're going to give them a Labour government that's going to give teachers, teaching assistants and smaller class sizes. You're going to give them a Labour government that's going to give young people youth centres. You're going to give them a Labour government that's going to give LGBT plus community more protection under law. You're going to give them a Labour government that's going to give women more protection under law. You're going to give them a Labour government that's going to get rid of universal credit. You're going to give them a Labour government that's going to end austerity. You're going to give them a Labour government that's going to get Jeremy Corbyn into number 10. Pick up the phone, brothers and sisters. Pick up the phone and tell them you're going to give them the most valuable gift that keeps on giving. And ask them to give that gift to someone else. Ask them to give that gift so we can eradicate homelessness. Ask them to give them another gift so we can get rid of Boris Johnson. Oh my God, I'm tired of that man. It's time we got rid of him. Listen, we've got 24 hours. We've got 24 hours to go. And let me tell you something. And I want to kind of use Grace, who sang earlier. And she said, when she says, oh, you said something, you said, we're going to fight for tomorrow. So when I say, oh, it's going to change. When I say, oh, I want you to say, I want you to look to someone and say, my friend, you are not alone. So when I say, oh, you say, my friend, you are not alone. Yeah. Oh. Just, just touch someone and say, not in a bad way. Do you know what I mean? We're not like Hancock. Do you see how creepy he was, standing so close to that woman? Right, dodgy characters, these Tory MPs. Anyway, when I say, oh, you say, my friend, you're not alone. Oh? Okay, here we go. Friends, Emily Sunday, here are the words. Are you sick and tired of being lied to? Getting bored of being ignored? Can't find the tribe that you belong to? Oh, my friend, you are not alone. Are you tired of begging for some answers? Are you scared you won't make it out alive? Does it make you sick when the truth gets censored? Oh, Are you tired of working for the minimum? Has your heart adjusted to the dark? Or does it make you sick that they kill the innocent? Oh. Are you dreaming of a brighter future? Somewhere where the children can be free? Will you risk it all to tell the truth? Oh, my friend, you are not alone. Oh, my friend, you are not alone. Oh, my friend, you are not alone. Roll the VT. Thank you very much, people. Thank you very much.
Getting kind of bored of being ignored. Can't find the tribe that you belong to. Well, my friend, you are not alone. Are you tired of begging for some answers? Are you scared you won't make it out alive? Does it make you sick when truth is censored? Well, my friend, you are not alone. Well, you are not alone here. Don't fear, you are not alone here. No way. There's plenty more of us here. Yeah, my friend, you are not alone. Are you tired of working for the minimum? Has your heart adjusted to the dark? Well, does it make you sick they kill the innocent? My friend, you are not alone. Are you tired of feeling so invisible? Are you sick of silencing your voice? Do you still have hope that peace is possible? My friend, you are not alone. You are not alone. You are not alone. No way, no way. There's plenty more of us here. Yeah, my friend, you are not alone.
There shouldn't be a dry eye in the house right now. My friends, you are not alone. Let me tell you something. Do you like this manifesto? Do you love this manifesto? Do you want to see this manifesto in government? Let me tell you, this manifesto would not have been written without Jeremy Corbyn as leader. When you say to people, nobody hates our policies, this manifesto would not have been written without Jeremy Corbyn, because he allowed us to write the things that we cared about. Because the things that we care about, he cares about, and you care about. The things that you care about, and you care about, and you care about. That's why this manifesto is so special. That's why there's so much at stake. That's why we have to win tomorrow, because there's too much. The thought of not winning is just too much. We have to win. And let me tell you, the man that's made this possible, they've tried to stop him. They've tried to stop him. They've tried to everything. They've tried to stop him. Let me tell you, the higher they built the barriers, you know where I'm going. You know where I'm going. The taller he became. The farther they take our rights away, the faster we will run. They can deny us. They can choose to turn their face away, no matter, because there's something inside so strong. The more they refuse to hear our voices, the louder we will sing. They hide behind walls of Jericho. Their lives will come tumbling. They squander wealth that's mine. They deny our place in time. our light will shine so bloody brightly it will blind them. Brothers and sisters, when they say we're just not good enough, we know better. Look them in the eyes and say, we're going to do it anyway. What we're going to say? What we're going to say? We're going to do it anyway. What we're going to say? We're going to... What are you going to tell the BBC? What are we going to tell Sky? What are we going to tell ITV? And the person who's going to make it all happen is Jeremy Corbyn. Give a round of applause. We are going to do it anyway. Labour game. My friend, you are not alone. Give it up for Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you. Thank you. This fantastic venue and this fantastic evening brings to at the end our election campaign, and tomorrow we're out knocking on doors like our life depends on it, as the lives of many do. And I want to thank Emily Sandé and all the other artists that have contributed to this campaign, to our party, and to that inspirational evening we had when we were at the Theatre Royal in Stratford. Because socialism is about hope, it's about inclusion, it's about prosperity for all, but it's also about imagination and music for all. And so I want to thank fellow MPs, MPs tomorrow, who spoke earlier, Meg, Emily, Diane, who spoke earlier, and of course Dawn, who did the introductions, and our fantastic junior doctors for the speech they gave earlier. I also want to apologise to Islington North Labour Party for not doing as much canvassing as I normally do. I've managed to get to most of the wards. Don't worry, it'll be... Justice will be done tomorrow. But I just want to say an enormous thank you to them for the incredible amount of work they do day in, day out to make Islington North such a strong place for Labour, but also a place of such determination and such hope. And I'm so grateful for them, not just for the support they've given during this election campaign, but for the teaching they helped me with, and the issues they raise with me, and the discussions we have. Because politics has always got to be interaction, engagement, and recognising we can all learn from each other. Never get so high and mighty, you can't learn from other people. And so to all of the Islington North Party that are around here, and our wonderful chair, Alison, for her speech earlier, thank you very, very much indeed. I'd also like to say a big thank you to the events team of the Labour Party organisation, all of the team we've got in head office, in my office, and all of the regional offices, because this has been the most incredible election campaign. We're not funded by billionaires. We don't have any big backers. What we have is trade unions that support us and members who give us their money. The Tory party might be happy with the money from billionaires. We've received £5 million in £25 donations from 200,000 people all across the country. That is a sign of real strength of our movement, the way in which we do business and the way in which we put our views forward. I've just come from the end of a 500-mile journey today. We were determined to get to as many places around the country as we can. Altogether in the campaign, I've been to, I think, 85 constituencies. And we've done rallies, meetings, demonstrations, visited people, visited lots of places, done lots of big events, small events, and so on, all over the country. And it was quite extraordinary. It was 7:30 this morning in Govan in Glasgow. There was a rally on the street, and it stopped raining for about half an hour. And apparently it wasn't cold by Glasgow standards. But again, the enthusiasm was there. And I tell you what, the Labour Party in Scotland is coming back. We're going to gain seats all across Glasgow. And at the weekend, we were all over in Wales, and the biggest event that's been held for apparently 100 years took place in Haverfordwest in Preseli Pembroke constituency. And it's that's happening all over the country, in the big cities, the small places, and all the rest of it. You wouldn't know it from much of the media reporting of the election. It's commentators speculating on other commentators who speculate. No, we believe in a free press. I just wish they'd free themselves from the shackles of the billionaires. Because the issues in this election are actually very, very profound. Most people say at most elections, this is the most important election there's ever been. And if you're a candidate, it always feels like that. Trust me, I've done it 10 times. But the issues in this election are so very, very important and very, very profound. We're literally at a fork in the road. We're at a fork in the road in this election. If Boris Johnson and the Tories are re-elected, no, don't say anything yet. If they're re-elected, we are living in a country that's already grievously divided between rich and poor, that's already suffering austerity in every conceivable way, and I'll come on to more of that in a moment. And it's a government that will take us into the direction of a trade deal with the United States, with Donald Trump, that will break off relations with Europe, which will turn this country into some kind of tax haven dominated by multinational corporations who will demand and get free rein from an incoming Tory government as to how they're going to do business. That is what the Tories will do. That is the choice. Or we can go another way. The Labour manifesto is what we said. There's no other government going to happen. It's either a Tory government or a Labour government that's going to be there on Friday. The Labour way, our manifesto, written by all of you and by thousands and thousands of people all over the country, through their resolutions to party meetings, through their demands, through union conferences, through their contribution in letters, emails, and conversations with all of us, have made our manifesto something that I think we can all be very, very proud of. Because that manifesto encompasses the hopes and dreams of so many people all around this country. And I'm utterly determined that we win this election to carry it out. Because there's a choice also. There's also a choice about the style and type of government you want. Boris Johnson, well, I don't want to get personal about this, but I just put it this way. Today, I've been going around the country delivering what I hope is a message of hope to people all around the country. Boris Johnson started the day pretending to deliver milk and then ended up in a fridge. Well, our party doesn't need to pretend, and we certainly don't need to hide in a fridge, because we're not afraid. Because we're not afraid of questions that may be put to us. In fact, we rather welcome them and relish those opportunities. And so our manifesto takes with it the hopes of so many people, the dreams of so many people of what kind of society we could be, because we've gone so far backwards in the past 9 years. 9 years ago, the Tories and Lib Dems got together and decided that they would go down the road of austerity, a political choice. Political choice to cut spending to local government, political choice to freeze welfare spending, political choice to freeze public sector wages, political choice to underfund the National Health Service, political choice to treble university fees, a political choice to impose poverty on the already poorest people in the country, including cutting welfare benefits to those with disabilities, as well as introducing a cruel and brutal sanctions regime through universal credit. They did all that knowing exactly what the consequences were. And Theresa May, as Home Secretary, quite specifically and quite deliberately created the hostile environment for the Windrush generation that come from all parts of the world and have made their homes and made such a fantastic contribution to our society. They did all that knowing what the consequences would be. And as a result, 10 years later, many working class communities all over Britain have seen a loss of spending power of around 20 to 25%. And you see that in the boarded up shops, the dilapidated high streets, the closed youth centres, the closed and sold off libraries, all that destruction of the commonplace, the public realm, all that destruction of things that glued communities together, underfunding police, etc., etc. That was a deliberate political choice. And I remember in Parliament when David Cameron said, well, we're all in it together. No, we're not. Oh, no, we're not. They're absolutely not in it together. The last 10 years, there's a number of billionaires. The number of billionaires in Britain has grown considerably. There's now 150 billionaires in Britain. And do you know what? These billionaires are actually quite mean, because only 50 of them who've done so well out of the coalition government and the Tory government, only 50 of them have contributed to Tory party funds. So Tory party funds must be really stretched when they're missing the contribution of 100 billionaires when there's only 50 billionaires contributing to them. And so I think words should be said. But also those that have great wealth, the wealthiest in our country, the biggest landowners, the richest people in Britain, have seen their personal wealth double in the last 10 years. Whereas the average worker has gone through frozen wages, loss of conditions, loss of opportunity, and young people have gone through the horrors and indignities of massive debt because they wanted to go to university and get a degree. That was the choice they made. So when the election comes tomorrow, it is a very clear choice. You go down the road with Boris Johnson, a sweetheart deal with Donald Trump, you break off any serious relationship with Europe, or you go down the Labour way, which is the adult, responsible way of negotiating a settlement that we will all live by and I will make sure is carried out in the future relationship with Europe. But we also go down the road of investing in our country, investing to end austerity, and redistributing wealth and power in our society in a way that's never been seen before by any government in Britain. Because the fundamentals of our manifesto are actually about empowerment of people in so many areas. I could give you so many examples, but you're not allowed to be here all night because you've got to be out early in the morning delivering those leaflets and knocking up. I'll just give you this one. Think through the education system we have at the present time. Think through the number of children that don't get to go to a nursery place, either because one isn't available, or their parents can't afford it, or they're not eligible for it, or it simply can't be found. Those children lose out. A child that doesn't get to go to a nursery is much less likely to do particularly well later on in school, and a lot of independent studies show by the time they reach 18, they could be as much as 18 months behind the rest of their cohort in academic achievement. And then you look at the number of children now taught in oversized classes, sometimes with an unqualified teacher standing in the front of the class. And they're going to school hungry because their parents are not able to feed them properly. It's Food Bank Britain and Poverty Britain and poor children underachieving in school as a result of that. And teachers who cannot cope with the stress of the testing regime, the league table regime, and the pressure they're under, leaving a profession they loved and a job that they thought was their vocation. So what have we done to our education system other than underfund it, overtest it, overpressurize it, and the outcomes get worse and worse? Can't we instead look at it slightly differently and say, take the principle of the commodity out of education and replace it with the right to education? The right of a child to get a nursery place, the right of a child to be taught in a reasonable sized class, the right of a child to have a qualified teacher, and the right of a child and their parents and their teacher not to go through the unbelievable stress that's imposed on them through Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 testing. It's that sort of thing that we need to change, and our National Education Service will change that. We'll change it by investing in education. We'll change it by valuing equally a vocational qualification, an apprenticeship, a technical qualification, or getting an academic qualification. And we will end university fees once and for all to take that debt away. And properly fund our adult education system. Will this cost money? Yes, it will cost money. The National Education Service will be there to make sure the money is available and properly spent, and we've made it very clear, in order to pay for this, we will raise corporation tax up to 26% in order to properly fund our services. Because our manifesto is fully costed and fully prepared for every department. And so on Friday, hopefully when we go into government, that manifesto will be deposited there. This is our programme. This is our manifesto. This is what we wish to carry out in government. For education is absolutely crucial to the lives of all of us. But so is also living with the safety of knowing you've got a National Health Service that you can rely on. The National Health Service is our movement's greatest achievement. It came from Tredegar, and Aneurin Bevan learnt the lesson in Tredegar about the community provision of health in the mining community there. And the National Health Service came in 1948. The more I study it, the more I read about it, the more I listen to some very old people that were there at the time, you just admire so much what Aneurin Bevan and those in the Labour government did at that time. I'm sure they were given lots of advice as soon as they became ministers in 1945. Minister, the country's in difficulties. We've just had the Second World War. I said, yeah, I know that. And we can't possibly afford these grandiose schemes. Why don't we have a Royal Commission to think about it? And it could report in maybe 10 years' time, and we could think about it then. I said, no, we were elected to do it, and we will do it. And with all those difficulties, they won the principle of healthcare free at the point of need. And it is a principle that this party, this movement, will never, ever go away from. But it is under threat. There's no question it is under threat. It is under threat from the Health and Social Care Act, which the Liberal Democrats and the Tories put through, which has been a pathway for £10 billion of privatisation within the NHS already. And when we challenged the government, the Tories, on the private secret talks they're having with the USA, we asked for the documents. I showed them in the first head-to-head debate, and somebody had been awfully busy with a Sharpie pen. They'd crossed out every single line of every single meeting, of every single decision that was made. All you knew was a meeting took place. It didn't even tell you whether they had tea, coffee, or biscuits. I don't know. Shocking business. And then we looked at the US documents and found, yes, they had been discussing what the meeting euphemistically called access to public services in Britain in a future trade relationship. Access to our health market. I didn't know we had a health market. I thought we had a National Health Service. I thought that's what it was called. And then we got all the documents and we released those to the public 2 weeks ago. And those documents showed the full horror of what was going on. Meeting in secret, they were negotiating with big pharmaceutical companies in the USA an extension of patent rights and times in order to increase costs of specialist medicines for our NHS. They were negotiating with them access to our health market and all of our other public services. And they were negotiating what they call investor state protection, which would mean they would be protected against any kind of radical move of an incoming government, something like, say, £10 an hour living wage, or right to join a trade union, right to be represented, all those kind of things. That is what they were in secret negotiating away. That is what Boris Johnson would continue doing, elected again on Friday, destroying our public services on the altar of a global free market dominated by a small number of multinational companies. Are we seriously going to allow our public services to be ripped up and destroyed by this person, by that government? So anyone that says there's no choice in this election, there's very much a choice. There's never been, ever, in British history, a clearer choice in the election that's being held tomorrow. And I'm very proud of the manifesto that we've got, and there's so much that's in it, and so much work that's gone into it. We, on this planet now, we do face the gravest, greatest crisis there has ever been. It is obvious that global warming is taking place. It's obvious the levels of pollution, particularly of seas and rivers, have got worse. And it's obvious that the impoverishment of the poorest communities are first affected by global warming. Look at the sea rises, look at the unusual weather patterns, the floods, the droughts that take place as a result of it. You cannot ignore it. And there are millions of people around the world that grossly affected by this, and there are many who in reality are environmental refugees in various places because of deforestation, because of desertification. And in this country we do have unusual weather patterns, we do have increased flooding, we do have real problems. We also suffer from totally unacceptable levels of air pollution in many of our cities. In Glasgow, you've got the shortest life expectancy anywhere in Britain, and you've got the greatest gap between the richest and the poorest getting wider all the time. And in some parts of the country, there's actually a falling, not a rising life expectancy, and a rising, not a falling infant mortality rate. And so the combination of class issues and environment actually come together. And so we have worked on how we deal with this. Do we sort of run away and say you can do absolutely nothing about it and just kind of hope it gets to be all right in the end? Or do we just stand by as spectators, watch the Amazon rainforest burn, the West African rainforest burn, our own natural world be damaged and destroyed, and we carry on with polluting as we were? Or do we be more smart, more sensible, more intelligent, and more creative about it? Hence the idea in the USA of the Green New Deal, here of the Green Industrial Revolution. And that Green Industrial Revolution is about investment in renewable energy, is about investment in wind, in wave, in solar, is about the Swansea Bay Lagoon, is about the Mersey Barrage, is about retrofitting millions of homes in order that they use less heat, and the people are warmer and they pay less as a result of it. And think of all the jobs that are created by the manufacture of the solar panels, the wind generators, the barrage, and all the retrofitting of homes. Think also of the improvements in our natural world by tree planting, by allowing nature to take over in some places to improve biodiversity, and the way in which we interact with nature and the way in which we run our agriculture. And that we have a trade policy and a foreign policy that reflects our needs to change our ways. 2015, Paris Climate Change Accord was a huge step forward. I was there, it was fascinating, I learned a great deal from it, but it didn't go far enough. On current prospects, Britain will only meet zero net emissions by 2099, the rest of the world by 21, goodness knows when. It's going to be too late. It'll be too late for many people and many places by then, and many species, and our own lifestyles will be severely damaged. So we are determined to try and reach net zero as quickly as we can, and if we can do it by 2030, I'll be the most pleased man in the whole country as a result of that. So it'll be our determination to do that. And next year, a Labour government hosting COP26 in Britain, working with other countries to strengthen, not weaken, the Paris Climate Change Agreement. And so we use our technology, our brilliance, our strength, our intelligence in order to confront the greatest problem that we face. Previous industrial revolutions were always a transfer of wealth and power from the poorest to the richest. This one will be different. This will be an investment in forgotten communities all over Britain that have seen nothing since the end of the miners' strike, that have only seen their work replaced by zero-hours contracts and fly-by-night employers. This is about investing in the future of all parts of Britain. And I'm determined that our Labour government will be doing that. We'll do that through our National Investment Bank. We'll do that through regional transformation funds. We'll do that by giving people rights at work, by raising the living wage to £10 an hour from next year, by giving people rights at work from day one when they start those jobs. Because people have been underpaid, underfunded, and underregarded for too long. Too many young people's lives have been stunted and ruined by the way in which austerity has worked on them. So it is our duty, our moral duty, to make sure that we do something about it. And I'll be very proud to win an election and start doing all of that work. But it's also about righting some of the wrongs of the past, such as the disgraceful way the WASPI women were treated in 2011 when they were deceived by the government and lost a lot of pension as a result of it. And when we announced that we would compensate the WASPI women and treat them properly, a lot of journalists came to me and said, well, hang on a minute, that means some slightly better off women will get the same benefits as others. I said, yeah, they've paid national insurance all their lives. It's called a universal benefit. Have you got a problem with that? And then you realise it's a sort of drip, drip, drip argument that somehow or other you've got to get rid of the principle of universality in the welfare state and replace it by some kind of insurance-based system. I believe very strongly in the universality of benefits, which is why our government will end universal credit and the disgrace of the two-child policy that's in operation at the present time, and the way in which people with disabilities are treated. And so it's also about us and about our sense of community. Our country is diverse. People from all parts of the world make their homes here, and people make a fantastic contribution here. It was the Tories that set up the whole intention behind the hostile environment, which has been so grievously hit, particularly the Afro-Caribbean community in Britain that have made such massive contributions. But it's also the poison of racism in our society, the way in which the far right seek to divide people. The far right always seek to divide people. It's their stock in trade. You blame this minority, you blame that minority, you blame this refugee, that migrant worker. There's always somebody you can blame. There's always somebody worse off than you. There's always some identifiable minority you can blame. At the end of it, you've just created a vortex of hatred. You haven't built a school, you haven't built a hospital, you haven't trained a teacher, you haven't got a nurse. And the poison of anti-Semitism, the poison of Islamophobia, the poison of racism will never, ever be allowed to exist in our party, our movement, or our country under a Labour government. Because that is the kind of world and kind of society that we want to live in. And our movement has many, many inspirational figures that went before us, those that fought for trade union rights, those that gained the rights for women, those that marched in all the major cities, those that made a stand in order to stand up for others that they might do better in the future. So our manifesto is a product of all that debate and all that discussion within our party and our movement, but it's also a product of centuries of radical work by many people who had the vision of a society where you care for all, not just a few, where you challenge the wealthy and the powerful. Our government will be challenged by the wealthy and the powerful, I've no doubt about that. It will be challenged by the billionaire owners of certain media outlets who apparently don't like me very much. I mean, I'll tell you what, I don't read all the daily papers actually, but I hear about it later. Thank you very much. But I hear about it later in the day. And those that... And if any of our political opponents or anybody else chooses to inhabit a gutter in order to which to throw mud around, that's absolutely fine by me. I hope they enjoy it down there in the gutter, but I won't be joining them. Because we have more important things to do. We have more important things to do to cut past all that and raise the sights and hopes of people, work with people as they develop and improve their communities, work with people under a Labour government that's trying to develop all the things that we're so proud of in our manifesto, but also recognising the work of so many that went before. And if I could finish on this. Many people have inspired me in my life. Not famous people, people that have given an awful lot of themselves in order to improve their communities. Those that have stood up under the most appalling difficulties and tragedies, but nevertheless had the inspiration to think of what would be better for the next generation. One such person that inspires me is the Chilean poet Victor Jara. Victor Jara was a singer, a poet, and he worked endlessly to get the Popular Unity government elected in Chile in 1970, and it duly was. And he supported that government through thick and thin, and it had the most appalling attacks. And after the coup in 1973, he was arrested, like thousands of others, and taken to the stadium. And the soldiers soon worked out who he was. And after they'd shot a number of people and tortured them in front of everybody else, they invited Victor to come to the middle of the stage, in the center of the stadium, and say, here's a guitar, you can sing for us now. And he went to the center of the stadium, picked up the guitar that had been put there, was quite surprised by this, he thought this was odd. And what they did was cut his fingers off in front of everybody else and then shot him. They smashed his hands that he might never play again. He wrote a poem called, "My guitar is not for the rich. No, nothing like that. My song is of the ladder we are building to reach the stars." Thank you very much.